Not so many years ago, in a county not so very far away, Adam Pastiche experienced bullying, abuse, and unfair dismissal in the workplace at an architect's office in the United Kingdom called Inigo Jones Architecture, one of the largest architectural practices in the UK.
For legal reasons, and in order to protect the innocent, the names have been changed, although the events recorded are true. Adam Pastiche had been asked to leave the architect's practice where he worked as an architect due to an alleged, although unproven, downturn in work.
Adam Pastiche was a talented, hard-working, highly committed and experienced project architect. He was married with 3 young children, and his wife worked as an occupational health therapist. Adam and his wife were committed Christians. Professor Sir Inigo Palpatine Jones, M.A., M.Arch, F.R.S.A., F.R.I.B.A., was the founder of Inigo Jones Architecture in 1982, with their main office in Coventry, Warwickshire, England. The technical director and enforcer of the practice, Mr. Hans V. Flashman, was what was commonly known as a control freak. He managed and disciplined the drawing office with a rod of iron. The newly promoted, young and extremely ambitious Associate Director, Mr. Cesare Vishnu Ryan, was inspired by Niccolo Machiavelli, who famously quoted that the end justifies the means. Adam had heard reports of Cesare's bullying and of him reporting little tales to the directors to get his colleagues into trouble in order to further his own power, ambition and status from at least 6 separate sources, although fortunately Adam had not been a victim himself. Consequently, there was a very sly culture of bullying and backstabbing, instigated and encouraged by Hans Flashman and Cesare Ryan. It was once asked of Cesare, "What does it profit a man if he loses his soul in order to gain the world?" But Inigo Jones Architecture? Cesare could not answer. One architectural technician, called Old Robert, had resigned because of Cesare's repeated bullying. He could no longer take the abuse. Adam's problem was that as an experienced architect and team leader, he was extremely good at his job, but over time he was given more and more responsibility and was then burdened with far too many projects, all at the same time, with very little support from the staff below him and the directors above him. Adam had far more responsibility than any of the other team-leading architects of similar status. This situation led to much stress, which started Adam's depression. Despite numerous complaints and warnings to all the directors and the practice manager, ex-Army officer Major Ford Maddox Brown, over a period of about 6 months, as well as an early warning letter to the practice from Adam's doctor, absolutely nothing was done until eventually Adam became ill with stress. Adam had predicted to the directors that there would be very difficult times ahead, particularly on one of his projects called Laura House, and behold, this was eventually borne out in an email sent by Professor Sir Inigo Jones himself to Adam one Saturday afternoon in February, which requested reports on all the failures on the Laura House project, as well as the status of other various failing projects. This email made Adam flip, and was unfortunately a final blow resulting in Adam's serious illness. He was consequently signed off work for 4 weeks and put on a course of antidepressants.
Due to the stigma of the Laura House project failure, Adam's self-esteem became very low. He suffered from nausea, panic, breathlessness, lightheadedness, a feeling of tightness in the head, and a lack of concentration. He did not sleep properly night after night. With the help of his wife Charity, Adam wrote a letter of grievance to the practice, addressed to the technical director, Hans Flashman. It was realized that in time, this was to become the kiss of death.
Upon Adam's return to work after the 4 weeks, he was given a fresh start, and his workload was reduced, which was very good, but for his pains he was demoted, whilst a lot of less experienced and cheaper members of staff were promoted. Adam's only crime, after all, was becoming ill. Adam recovered to full health after about 2 months. However, he was never restored to his former role of team leader. Next, before he knew it, his workload was reduced to almost nothing, or to some very menial tasks, which he found very demeaning. Then he was called to a special meeting with the directors and was asked to leave the practice on the pretext that there was a reduction in the practice's workload. But this was never proved in any shape or form. Upon the instruction of the practice manager, Major Ford Maddox Brown, the practice's solicitors drew up a legal document for Adam to sign called a compromise agreement, which essentially offered to pay him off with a sum of money if Adam waived his employment rights. The agreement would also prevent Adam from publishing anything derogatory or damaging about the practice, particularly as Professor Sir Inigo Palpatine Jones was the Vice President of the Royal Institute of British Architects and a renowned academic figure. IJA also offered to contribute a nominal sum of money towards Adam's solicitor's fees. Adam proceeded to employ a solicitor at considerable expense. He wisely chose to commission a top expert in employment law to check the compromise agreement and negotiate on his behalf. If the compromise agreement was not acceptable, he may have to take Inigo Jones Architects to an employment tribunal, which, of course, Professor Sir Inigo Jones would not want. A timescale for leaving was never agreed, but the compromise agreement was drawn up for signature and checked by Adam's solicitor. The atmosphere during the remaining weeks at the office was not good. Adam was very brave and continued to go into work every day for as long as he was able, although he was somewhat humiliated by his treatment. On occasions, students were interviewed for work placement and shown around the office by Major Ford Maddox Brown. Again, Adam was not able to sleep properly during those weeks, until eventually his doctor signed him off work again, and he was back on the medication. You see, Adam was never made redundant, as the practice knew that this would have led straight to an employment tribunal. After advice and some hard negotiations by his solicitor, to double Adam's payment. Adam eventually signed the compromise agreement, which paid him off and freed him to start work at another practice called the Exodus Design Studio, where he still works happily today. The final substantial sum of money Adam was paid was used for 2 family holidays over the following 2 years, one in Cyprus and the other in Spain, for him, his wife, and 3 children. We all believed that this was fair compensation for all his grief at IJA. Adam kindly forgave all those at IJA responsible for his ill treatment. Mr. Cesare Vishnu Ryan, of Hindu heritage, converted to Christianity and repented of his former ways. He undertook some sponsored sporting events to raise money for charity in expiation for his many sins. He went on an arduous and sweaty pilgrimage to Jerusalem and worked very hard to live as a good evangelical Christian. After many years of devotion, he became a lay preacher at the Below Bar Evangelical Church in Coventry.
Adam and his family, also devoted Christians, we are pleased to say, lived happily ever after.